Hey guys, Zach here. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through a super powerful AI lead magnet system that you can use within your B2B business today that not only is going to produce highly relevant and super personalized insights for the prospect, but it's something that you can use as an extension of your lead generation process to actually go out there and acquire high value clients. So I'm going to walk you through the system now and show you how it works step by step. So just to walk you through the flow of how the system actually works, what this is going to be a lead magnet that actually audits the sales copy of a prospect's website. So what this is going to look like is you're going to be offering some kind of high value audit or lead magnet via your social media channels or email channels. I'm going to be walking you through the system of how I actually generate predictable and high value results with AI that actually solve your prospects' problems and actually provide value that's relevant to their business that makes them want to work with you. So once we've actually captured the lead's attention, what's going to happen is we're going to have some kind of intake form where they fill out answers regarding their business, and that's just going to give us and the AI context around their business so that when we analyze their sales page, we have something to actually compare that against. And when we give the AI a specific framework through which to analyze the website, it has a kind of baseline understanding of what the business looks like and what their goals and problems are. So once the leads actually filled out the form, what happens then is we take the sales page that they actually filled out on the form and we go ahead and scrape that data. And what we can do with this, we can then plug it into an AI module. Now I've separated these AI modules into 5 individual processes, and depending on your business and the kind of problems that you solve, everyone's going to be a little bit different. But the main reason I've actually separated these into 5 separate AI modules rather than just analyzing the sales page in one is because when you give the AI a bunch of tasks and you ask it to produce a bunch of different outputs, what you get is unreliable, wishy-washy results. And what we want here is consistency and actual results that drive revenue. So my kind of philosophy when actually analyzing a sales page and seeing if it's converting is first to look at offer clarity. How clear is the offer on that page? And what does it actually tell us about what the company does? So the first AI assistant here is actually going to take a look at that specifically, and it's going to output detailed recommendations about how they can actually improve the offer clarity on their sales page. The second component we look at when analyzing the conversion of a sales page is the ICP resonance. So based on the information they actually filled out on the form about who their ICP is, their pains, their desires, we can actually take a look at the sales page, analyze it with the AI, and see how much of the information on that sales page actually resonates with the ICP. And thirdly, here we have value communication. We use a specific framework here that basically says, with the information provided on the page, is this something that the ICP would actually see valuable, and how does it compare to their competitors? Now, the fourth step we actually look at when analyzing the sales page is trust and proof. So do they include credible testimonials? Do they include results and figures on their page that actually explain to their ICP what they have done and increase the trust? And then finally, we use AI to actually assess the perceived risk. So based on the actual call to action of the sales page, how much perceived risk is actually associated with the client taking action? So if there's not enough incentive for them to actually take action, then this is obviously going to decrease conversions on the sales page. Now, once we take all of these AI modules and we generate hyper relevant results, what we can then do is take the individual components of these modules and then plug them into a final copywriting assistant here, which actually generates the full lead magnet for us. And what's super important here is we have some kind of lead magnet template as well, because we want to give the AI some kind of parameters and direction to follow within the lead magnet. That way we can actually keep it concise and relevant, and we don't allow the AI to ramble on with irrelevant information. Once we've actually put all that together, what we can then do is we can send it over to a Google Doc. We can format it in the correct way, maybe with some human input, or perhaps you have an actual formatting software that you prefer to use in your business. But what we can then do is either notify someone on the team or go ahead and send it directly to the prospect. And what I find works even better is once the asset is actually generated and the prospect's opted in, they've given us all of our information, is to actually use this asset in some kind of value-led outreach process where we're then using it to actually reach out to the client as some kind of icebreaker to show them that we can actually provide value up front and get our foot in the door. And like I said, this is just going to completely separate you from your competition who are not investing the time to do things like this. So let me pull up my make.com scenario where I'm actually going to be building out the system and show you exactly how it works. Cool, now I've shown you the high level structure of what the system actually looks like. What I'm going to do now is get much more granular and show you how it actually looks like module by module. So obviously the first trigger in this whole process is our form submission. Now you can use a bunch of different forms within your business, whether that's a website form, whether that's a type form integrated into your website, whether it's a lead form, Google Forms, anything along those lines. For the example in this video, I'm just going to be using a simple Google Forms just because it's a software that everyone's familiar with. So I'm going to walk you through the system and show you the individual components of how to set everything up. and towards the end of the video stick around because I'm going to be showing you a demo of what it actually looks like. The first step here and the actual trigger in our scenario is the watch form responses. Now this is actually going to look for new form submissions, so when a prospect actually fills out the form link and gives us information about their sales page, this is going to trigger the automation here and it's going to start the entire workflow. Now in order to set this up, it's pretty simple. What you're going to want to do is just come into here and add, and then sign in with Google. So once you've got that set up, the next step is to actually list the responses. After it's actually triggered the submission, we need to actually list the responses that come through. Now, in order to link it to the correct form, it asks for a form ID here. So if you just come into the actual form, there's going to be a link here between the // and the edit. You just want to copy this ID from the actual URL. And then what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to come into here and actually paste in the form ID. And that will basically connect the form that you're going to be using for this lead magnet. Now, what I've done here, it's not a necessary step, but it just makes it 100 times easier to actually plug the data into AI. What I've done here is I've actually created a JSON object that just structures the form answers in an easy to read way for the AI. That way I don't have to go in and plug all the answers individually. I can just plug in one object that gives you all the answers, so that way we can save token costs, but also it's a lot easier to set up. Now, if this looks scary, it's not. It's pretty simple. What you can do is just type in the keys from the actual form questions that you've asked, and then go to ChatGPT and just say, can you generate this as a JSON object? And then after you generate this with ChatGPT, what you can then do is you can come into here, and where it has an empty value, you can just come into here with the actual values and you can just map them one by one. What I'll do is I'll actually show you the questions that we use in the form just so you can get an idea of what that looks like. So the questions are pretty simple. It's just business basics with the name and the actual website URL that we're going to be auditing. Then we get a little bit of the information around the prospect's offer. So what's the main offer they're trying to sell on the page? Tell us a bit about their offer. What's the typical pricing range? Do they have any guarantees or risk reversals? Then we want to know a little bit more about their ideal customer profile. So who their primary ideal client is, what's the top 3 to 5 pain points that they're facing on a day-to-day basis, what outcomes people actually get from working with them, and some common objections they have before buying. And then finally, we have questions around their actual market position and goals. So what's the main kind of objective or goal with this sales page? Are we trying to get someone to book a call? Are we trying to sell them directly? And then finally, how they're positioning themselves relative to their competitors. And then of course, finally, we have a few questions to actually receive their contact details so that once we've actually finished the AI lead magnet, we can go ahead and send it over to them. So just going back to the make scenario here, if I pull this up, you can see formatted all of the questions and answers from the actual form. And then what we can basically do is we can plug this JSON object into AI and it's going to be able to understand all of the inputs that we have here. So once we've actually structured the data correctly, then the next thing we can do is scrape the sales page that the prospect actually submitted on the form. Now the way to do this is pretty easy. You just come to the URL section here, and from the actual value on the form they submitted, you just go ahead and you paste the value into the URL here, and what that'll do is it'll basically scrape all of the data on the page that we can then convert into a format easily readable by the AI. So once we've done that, what that's then going to do is it's going to send us a long list of HTML. So in order to actually plug that into an AI in a language it's easier to understand, and once again to actually reduce our token costs and prevent rate limits, what we can do is convert that scraped website data into text, and that way the AI is going to be able to analyze the text much easier. So now we're getting into the actual AI prompts and how that works. Like I said a few minutes ago, I've actually split up the analysis into 5 different components. That's just so that we can get high value results in each component of the lead magnet that we're actually generating, and we can use that finally to plug that into a final AI that's going to generate the lead magnet for us. So if I just pull up the first prompt here and show you what that looks like, I'm just going to be using GPT 4.1 because I find that to be a very reliable model. And what we do here is we just plug in a system prompt, which basically tells the AI how to act. So what I've got here is you're a senior conversion copywriter and CRO consultant. Your job is to analyze website sales copy and identify why it may not be converting. And I've got a few rules here. You must be direct, specific, evidence-based, don't speculate. We want to focus on conversions, not aesthetics. We want to be concise and actionable. And I'm also telling it the format in which it's actually going to receive the data. So I'm going to send it the business information. I'm going to send it information about the offer, the ICP context, and I'm going to send that as a JSON object, as I mentioned back here. And I've also instructed the AI how to actually output its answer as well. So when we're doing this, it's important that we output it in a valid JSON object, and that's so we can actually use the variables from this to plug it into the final module, and we can actually use those variables to generate the final result. But that's the system prompt. In terms of the actual user prompt, which is what a lot of people are most familiar with, that's just the interface when you're actually speaking to the AI. Pretty simple prompt here. Your job's to analyze the following sales copy and assess offer clarity. Your instructions are to assess how clearly the offer is communicated on the page. You'll write a diagnosis, 2 to 4 short bullet points, impacts, recommendations, evidence snippets, and once again, output your answer in the following JSON object. And what I've done here is I've just given the AI a format in which to actually output the answer. So now that we've actually told the AI what to do, the next thing we want to do is come in here and actually plug in the data. So I've got here the business offer and ICP context, which is that JSON object that we generated earlier. And you can see here, I don't have to go in and input all the form questions. I can just put it in one simple variable. And what I've also done is I've gone and inserted the text that we actually generated from scraping the whole website. And the AI is going to take all of this information. It's going to be able to take the data from the website and assess offer clarity and how much the offer actually resonates. Another super important thing I want to mention here is you want to come down here into the advanced settings, and you just want to make sure the response format is formatted as a JSON object rather than a text. And we also want to pass the JSON response. This is just so that all of these variables that we actually generate can be used as variables in the subsequent modules, and they're not going to be outputted as text, which we won't be able to manipulate. So once that's done, every other subsequent AI module is pretty much the same, but it just optimizes for the specific thing we're looking for. If I go into the actual doc where I wrote out all of these prompts, you can see here for prompt 1, offer clarity, prompt 2, ICP resonance, prompt 3, prompt 4, prompt 5. In each of these ones, we're using the exact same system prompts, but the only thing we're changing is the variable we're actually looking to analyze. So each of these is going to go out, it's going to look for a specific thing, and then it's going to output relevant results based off of that. But going back to the make.com scenario, I've actually put a few sleep modules in between these AI modules. That's just because we're sending a bunch of requests to the OpenAI API, and I just want to avoid rate limits. So this just prevents that from happening and keeps it more reliable. Obviously 5 seconds is not super necessary, and you can just do 1 to 2 if it becomes a problem. Once we've actually used AI to generate the individual components of the analysis of our lead magnet, what we can then do is create a template that we're going to use for the AI to actually fill those variables into. Because if we don't use a template, AI is just going to ramble on and it's not going to use our insights in a concise and precise way. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and created a template outside of this. And what I've done is I've just saved this variable name as doctemplate so that when we plug this into the final AI prompt, the AI knows exactly how it needs to format the lead magnet. If I walk you through the template quickly, it might be easier if I show you in the actual Google Doc, just so you can kind of see how it looks in the right format. So we want to create the document in a markdown format, which basically uses hashtags as titles and certain formatting rules. When the AI outputs the lead magnet, it has specific structure like titles, bullet points, all that kind of stuff. So if I show you the structure I've actually created for the lead magnet, it's just a title here with website, sales copy, conversion audit. And then we have a first section here which gives an executive summary, which first tells us the top 3 easiest fixes that they can make within their sales copy and some quick wins that they can implement. And then we go into the sections that we generated through the AIs. Each section is pretty standardized because we want the AI to give us reliable results. But as you can see here, we've got a score out of 10. Then we've got a diagnosis, we've got an impact and some short recommendations. Now, obviously not every business provides a service of analyzing sales pages, but you can see how you could take this approach and apply it to your own offer and then use your own unique process to create high value lead magnets like this. If I just scroll down, all of the other sections are pretty standardized. So we have the ICP resonance, and I've just put the same pattern here because the AI is going to recognize what we're actually looking to do. Value communication, trust and prove, perceive risk. And then what I've done at the end here is I've actually included a prioritized action plan to give them actionable steps on how they could go about improving their sales copy. And then I've given them kind of timelines. So next 7 days, next 30 days, and next 90 days. So that when they do actually come in and start working with us, we know some specific points that we can actually go about helping them implement in their business. And chances are a lot of the businesses are not going to be able to implement all of the advice that you actually give them. So they're going to be looking for that outside help, and it creates some kind of pain as well. And then finally, at the end here, we have some kind of call to action. Now, this can be a soft CTA, this can be a hard CTA, but essentially once we've actually provided the value, we want to give them a mechanism through which they can book a sales call with us. So that's the actual template I've inputted into the variable here. So what we can do now, we can create a final module, which is essentially the lead magnet generator. In terms of the system prompt, I've just got you're a senior conversion consultant. You turn detailed analytical findings into a clear, concise, client-facing audit report. And for the user prompts, your job is to create a high-value lead magnet that assesses how to improve sales copy to improve conversions on a website. You'll be given as input the intake form variables, which are the variables generated through the form, the format of the document, which is the Google Docs format I just showed you a second ago, and also the individual sections that we generated with the AI, which is essentially going to allow us to populate the sections of the lead magnet. And also what's super important when you're doing prompting is to have some kind of rule set to keep the AI within guidelines. So I've got some rules here: use a professional, friendly tone of voice, avoid any jargon, be specific and actionable, so actually produce actionable insights, and make sure to output your answer using the following template provided in Markdown, and that's going to be able to format it correctly within the Google document. And finally down here, as promised, I've got the input data, which is the business offer and ICP generated from the form. I've also got the document pillars. Now, as you saw in the Google Doc format, I actually included pillars throughout the sections, and within those pillars are the 5 sections that we actually analyze with the AI. I've just formatted it in an easy to understand way for the AI so it can actually structure the report properly. And down here, I've just included the high level template, so the AI should be able to take this information and output a high value, clean sales audit lead magnet. Now, just to show you how it works, we come down here, we leave the response as text this time, and we can go ahead and save this, leave everything else blank. And then what we want to do is we want to generate that Markdown format into a HTML format. Now, the way Google Docs work when we're actually generating it through this way is it doesn't actually recognize the Markdown. So what we need to do is turn it into HTML. And then once we've actually turned that into HTML, just by inserting the result of the AI module into here, we can then go ahead and create a Google Doc. Now, in order to set this up, it's super simple. You just come into here, you give it a name. I've called it the website sales copy conversion audit and the name of the prospect. And I've also just inserted the HTML from this module here, and you can go ahead and save it to any of the drives you want. Now from here, I've just left it at the Google Docs stage for the sake of this demo, but you can see how you can then continue on the automation to send it to a Slack channel, to send it to the email, to update yourself within your internal systems. The possibilities are endless with this system. So now that I've shown you how the entire system works, I'm now going to pull up a sales page to actually show you through a live demo. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to pull up a sales page that I was actually checking out recently, which is just consulting.com. Seems like it's Iman Gadji's new business. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the form here as an example prospect, and we're going to fill in the details from this website and just simulate what this would actually look like. And then I'm going to show you what the final lead magnet turns out like. If we go to the actual form itself and just copy the link to fill this out, what I'm going to do is fill out this form as if I was this business here using the sales page. So if I just go back to consulting.com, let's call it company name, let's say Quantum Mastermind. URL, what we can do is go ahead and just copy and paste that into here. Cool. What's the main offer you're trying to sell on this page? Let's see if we can go to the page and grab some information. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take this here and we'll say that's the offer. So we help elite business owners scale fast, stay lean, and build operational machines by installing the exact systems that took us to 100 million plus with 70 plus profit margins. Describe the offer in 2 to 4 sentences. What do the clients actually get? So if we go to the sales page here and see if they have any information around what they actually get from joining the mastermind, we'll just grab this here. Here we go. So we'll say 50 SOPs and playbooks. Let's call this organic content system. In-person mastermind events, systems to scale to 100 mil in revenue. Let's just say that for now. Typical pricing range for this offer doesn't look like they probably have a pricing range on this website, but for the sake of the demo, let's just say the offer is 20,000 a year to get access to the mastermind. And in terms of guarantee, I doubt there is any guarantee, but let's just say for the sake of this video, there's a 90-day guarantee just to see what that would look like if we generate that through our lead magnet. Who's the primary ideal client? It looks like already successful founders. So what I'm going to say is founders already doing 20 to 50K a month in revenue, looking to scale to 100K a month. And top 3 pain points, let's just say lack of consistent content, not able to scale with the right SOPs and systems. Obviously you can see I'm just making this up here, guys, but for your own business and for your prospects' own business, they'll be able to fill this in with a much more relevant information. And let's just say finally hiring A-star players in the team to scale. Let's just say that. What outcomes do they want from working with you? Let's go 100k month business, healthy margins, say 5%. It's a service business, we'll go 70% plus. And lastly, let's say a consistent leads through their organic content. Cool, that should do for now. 3 to 5 common objections, just going to make up a bunch here. Let's say not the right timing, not sure if for me. And finally, let's go unsure about the value for money. Primary goal of this sales page, I've had a look at this before, so I'm pretty sure the primary goal is to actually schedule in a sales call, which it is. So I'll just go ahead and book a sales call for the primary goal. This is going to impact the direction of how we go about auditing the sales page, because the sales pages that aim to sell directly are going to be a little bit different from the ones that prompt you to book a sales call. And how they're positioning relative to the closest competitors, let's just say access to $1 million founders at 2 times a year masterminds, 50 plus SOP systems, plug and play. Cool, so I've just filled in an information about a hypothetical business. I'm just going to fill out my name and email address here as well. So submit that form. What it's going to do, if we go ahead and run this once, that'll be able to grab the data that we just submitted. So it's grab the data, scrape the website. Firstly, generating the offer clarity. Next up is to generate the ICP resonance. Now we can go ahead and see how well the page communicates its value. 4th step here, see how they communicate trust and proof. 5th step, how they actually go about communicating the perceived risk and lowering the risk of the prospect to actually take action. And once that's generated, we take all of those variables from the AI modules, we plug in our template, and then finally we can come to here and actually generate a lead magnet. So once that's generated, it should take just a few more seconds. Once that's generated, it's going to convert it into a format that Google Docs actually understands. And once that's done, I'll go ahead and shoot over to my Google Drive and show you what the lead magnet looks like exactly. Cool, so head over to the drive now. You can see the document's just been created. If we click into this, what we can see is the formatting isn't the best, so you might want to come in and actually tidy this up manually before you send it over to the prospect or use it within your outreach. But in terms of the actual valuable insights provided here, we can see we have an executive summary where it gives us a score for the conversion likeliness out of 10. This one gives it a 6.75 out of 10, which is obviously not the best result and can be improved. And a few issues and pointers it actually points out here is the offer details and benefits are not clearly surfaced for high ticket prospects. The pricing guarantee and next step expectations are hidden or unclear, which might cause some friction for sophisticated buyers. The messaging relies heavily on large numbers and testimonials without fully explaining how the program works or delivers results. So you can see that these are actually actionable steps that the business owner or the consultant can actually take. And we've got a few quick win opportunities here. So you can add a clear what's included section or an FAQ section with pricing guarantee above the fold, which is going to be able to pre-handle objections on the sales page. And then it also says here to clearly explain what happens after clicking apply and who the program is for. And finally, it has a few suggestions here to actually link the client outcomes and the testimonials to the actual systems that they provided in the sales page. So this is quite valuable information, and it's a lot better than your average ChatGPT prompt is going to be able to come up with. Now, in terms of the individual analysis sections that we actually generated through ChatGPT, you can see here we have an offer clarity, which is a 4 out of 10. The reason why, it says the offer is referenced in multiple places, but never clearly broken down or summarized. The features are scattered and lack one cohesive what's included section, and the CTAs are actually included before answering what do I get or is this for me for buyers. So a lot of actionable insights. And down here we have an impact section. You can go ahead and pause the video and read this if you like. and also some recommendations. Just wanted to walk you through the ICP resonance. So this tells us where we can actually touch on the pain points of our ICP and daily frustrations more. And it also tells us the impact of not doing that and gives us some recommendations on how we can actually circumvent that. Obviously, go ahead and pause the video if you want to read all of this. But just to scroll down here, we got value communication. So the claims are strong. It shows some quantifiable results. However, the link between what they get and how they actually deliver those results is implied and not actually shown in a step-by-step process. So it gives the impact of that there and also some final recommendations. And then finally, we have the trust and proof. So this one gives it a 9 out of 10, surprisingly. So there's lots of testimonials on the page with lots of numbers, lots of results, lots of case studies, which is great. However, it does mention that there's a repetition of testimonials, and maybe to switch it up a bit to include more varied results for different kinds of people at different stages. And then if we come down into the perceived risk, it gives it a 6 out of 10. There's no explanation of what actually happens after they click apply. And also the pricing is not clear up front, so the prospects don't actually know what they're getting themselves into. And it gives some recommendations here again. So lack of transparency in the steps, which could cause doubt when people actually go to sign up. And then once again, it recommends some action steps you can actually take to improve that. Now, what's also super valuable at the bottom here, we have an action plan. So it basically goes through all of those steps that we included above, and it just breaks them down into a specific 7, 30, 90-day action plan that the prospect can actually go away and implement. And down here, I haven't actually gone ahead and filled this section out, but we have a call to action here. It just says ready to convert more high value founders, get a personalized walkthrough of your optimized sales journey, tailored advice and actionable next steps. And what this should do, it should have some kind of CTA link where you can go ahead and book in a sales call. But what I'd actually recommend is before sending this through to the client, you want to go in and manually make sure that this lead magnet resonates with your brand and the way that you guys actually solve problems. And you also want to check this to make sure it's actually providing relevant information and using the correct links. And once you've generated something like this, you only need to do it once, where you could use this as leverage to go out and continually provide value to the prospect. And it costs nothing extra for you to go and actually implement a system like this. Using make.com with this system here, you can build something like this out for a few cents. What you might want to do is you might want to come in here. You might even want to change the font around. So if I just copy all of this, you might want to change it to Times New Roman. That probably doesn't look great. Let's go enter. And it might even want to add some spaces in between all of this. And this will just make it look a lot more human generated, as if you've actually gone away, you've actually conducted this sales order yourself, and now you're personally sending it through to the prospects. And obviously you can add your brand formatting in here. Like for example, here you can insert your logo. You can do whatever you like with it, but it's basically going to give you the leverage to go out there and start providing value to the marketplace and completely separate you from the competition. So that's essentially how the sales audit lead magnet system works using AI. If you want this document, let me know and I can send it over to you. What it's going to include is all of the form questions that are actually relevant for producing a system like this, the exact JSON object that you need to go in and clean those variables, and then the step-by-step ChatGPT prompts that we've used throughout the modules in order to actually generate the results. And finally here, I have the Google Docs template that we actually use to structure the sales audit. And then last but not least, we have the final ChatGPT copywriting prompt, which takes all of those previous variables and then outputs that into a high value lead magnet that you can use to go out and sign clients. So I hope some of you found this video valuable. Obviously for this example, I've used a lead magnet that actually analyzes the sales page of a website. But if you're a service business, perhaps you're an agency owner or you're a founder within the B2B space, every one of you is going to have a different set of problems that you solve for clients. Hopefully this video gives you an overall structure on how to actually set up a lead magnet system so you can go ahead and implement it for your own business.